Okay, good evening. I know we've got a full room tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Linda Bridwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Public Service Commission. We thank you all for coming out tonight. This is our public comment meeting on the wood duct solar facility that has been proposed in front of the Public Service Commission. I've got a slideshow here. I want to make sure that everybody understands that all of this information in the slideshow, the video from tonight will all be on the PSC's website if you would like to view it later. I know we're a little crowded. If you can't see the slideshow and you need some information later, that's all available in the record of the case. So the case number, and I will bring this up 2 or 3 times, the case number for the Public Service Commission is 2024-00337. And I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that number, because if you are looking for the case record or if you want to file a public comment later on, you need to be able to reference that. We'll try and figure it out at some point if you call us, but it's a lot easier if you have that case number with you. So let me get started here. What did I do? Okay, so I'm going to go through just the agenda for tonight really briefly. So the purpose of the meeting is a public comment. It's the opportunity for the commissioners to hear from the public about this project. So I'll go through a little bit more about the purpose of the meeting, then the process of applications to the siting board, the wood duct solar proposal, and I will tell you it is at a very, very high level. It's not details about it. The conditions of approval, some of the conditions of approval that have occurred in other solar projects. Then when I finish that short presentation, if you have a question about the process of the case, I will be happy to answer those questions, or if you have questions about how to enter your public comments. If you came out tonight looking for the commission staff or the applicant to provide details about the project, that is not the purpose of this meeting, and that will not be occurring. So I need to make sure that you understand, and I'll explain this a little bit. Then after that, we will move into the public comment period. The PSC commissioners, our 3 commissioners are here tonight to listen to those public comments. So once we move into that, we will not break for questions. And the commissioners cannot answer questions during the public comment period, and I'll explain that a little bit more here in a minute. So, okay, so our purpose of tonight is a local public comment meeting on the proposed project. The members of the public are invited to provide comment on the project. We will record everything, my presentation, any of the comments. It's not being live streamed, it's being recorded, but it will be up in about 24 hours. So if you have someone that you know that wasn't able to come tonight but might be interested, they can go to our website tomorrow, pull up the video from tonight's meeting. So again, the representatives of the project developer will not give a presentation or answer questions during the meeting. If some of them are here, they may be interested in answering questions after the meeting. The commissioners and the commission staff will not be answering questions either, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so. Okay. I mean, there's 3 or 4 chairs here. There's certainly. There's certainly some standing room in the back, or there's 4 or 5 chairs here for people that want to come in.
There's room if you want to stand here right in this area.
I was going to say there's 2 chairs over here, and there's 2 chairs right here in front.
Welcome to stand even right there behind that.
And then there's.
Yeah.
Okay, there's still open seats if people would like to sit down. So let me just talk about again. I'll reiterate again. So the applicant has previously notified the adjacent landowners. The applicant had a public meeting about the project. So the representatives of the project developer are not here tonight to make a presentation. So, and the commission is only here to listen to the public. So please keep your comments to the project or the parties involved at this point. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about the Public Service Commission, and then I'll explain the siting board and how that fits with the Public Service Commission. So the Public Service Commission is 3 commissioners. It's made up of 3 commissioners that are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate in Frankfurt. We have approximately 88 employees. We regulate more than 1,100 utilities across the state. We are funded by an assessment to all of utilities. Our payroll and everything doesn't come out of the general fund. It's funded by an assessment that the utilities that we regulate pay. It was created in 1934 and has been going strong since then. The Kentucky Electric Generation and Transmitting Siting Board is housed within the Public Service Commission. And it was created by the General Assembly in 2002 specifically to look at power generation siting. So if a merchant generator wants to come in and build a power plant, then that is something different than a utility building a power plant. So that's what the siting board has created. There is actually in addition to the 3 commissioners, there are 2 additional members that are well, here, let me go through the whole slide here. So the purpose of the siting board is to review the applications for construction of electric generating facilities from entities not regulated by the Public Service Commission. So what that means is they are not utilities providing it to their own customers. They're what we call merchant generators. They supply power to the transmission grid to the wholesale market. So the review focuses on noise, visual impacts, economic impacts, and transmission line impacts. The review process is funded by fees paid by the applicants. So when they submit their application, they have to put a deposit up. It's in the statutes that way, how much they have to deposit. Then the review of that is paid for out of that application fee. So as I said, a new siting board is created for each project. I think if you'll flip the side. And so what that means is the members of the siting board differ for each. We have the 3 Public Service Commission commissioners or permanent members. There is the Secretary of the Economic Development Cabinet or their proxy, the Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet or their designee, and then 2 people that the governor appoints that are unique to each siting board. So just to give you an idea of some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, you might see the term MW, a megawatt. How much electricity can be produced by a facility. 1 megawatt will power about 750 homes. A merchant generator, I already mentioned, is an electric generation facility not owned by a utility serving in the state of Kentucky. Decommissioning means returning the land back to its original condition, and I refer to the siting board frequently. It's just kind of the abbreviated way of talking about the Kentucky State Board on Electric Generation and Siting, Transmission Siting, which is a mouthful. Okay, Glenn, thanks. So the generating facilities reviewed by the siting board sell power in the wholesale market. So they may be selling to an RTO, they may be selling to consumer, large industrial customers that have bypassed their individual utilities, and then they sell to the utilities themselves. The siting board approval is required for merchant plants with a generating capacity of 10 megawatts or more, and for non-regulated transmission lines capable of carrying 69,000 volts or more. So it has to be a pretty big facility. We don't regulate if 2 or 3 of the neighbors want to go together and put solar panels on top of your house. That's not regulated by us. It's simply 10 megawatts or more generated. Okay, so I talked about the 7 members for each siting board case. The 3 commissioners of the Public Service Commission, the chair of the Public Service Commission serves as the chair on every siting board. The Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet or their designee, the Secretary of the Cabinet for Economic Development or their designee, the 2 ad hoc members, there are 2 local members with 1 appointed by the governor to serve for a specific case from the county where a facility is to be located. Ordinarily, the judge executive or a chair of the planning and zoning is the other ad hoc member. So the siting board timeline. There is a, before they ever file an application, they will host a public meeting held by the developer. Then the applicant files notice with the Public Service Commission that they're getting ready to file an application. They have to do it at least 30 days out. Then the public notice of the location and general description of the project is put out by the developer. And after the application is filed, the ad hoc members are named. After the application is filed, the siting board establishes what they call a procedural schedule. And I want you to understand this is a legal application. This is a legal process in a legal case. So the siting board essentially serves as the judge in the case. So when I was telling you that we're not answering questions, that's because we're essentially, the commissioners are serving as the judge on the application. So they can't discuss the case, just like you can't walk in when your neighbor gets in trouble. You can't walk in and just start talking to the judge about the case. Okay, so the parties, it's the parties to the case. It's a legal process, and the parties are represented by attorneys in the case. So the siting board, by statute, has 120 days that they have to review it unless there's an evidentiary hearing, and then it can be extended to 180 days. So the entire review process by statute of the General Assembly has to occur within 180 days. And folks, there's still some chairs here. I'm not that formal if you all, anybody would like to sit down. So there's a couple seats here on the front row. So a couple items that must be included in the application. So evidence of the public notice. The developer has to show that they have provided public notice and report on their public involvement in the case. The compliance with any local planning and zoning regulations and noise control ordinances. Analysis of the effects of the proposed facility on the electric transmission grid. Analysis of economic impacts. And disclosure of any past environmental violations by the applicant. So this is all has to come in on the front end. They also have to file a site assessment report. So the applicant submits this as part of the application. It identifies the surrounding land uses, residential, commercial, agricultural, and recreational. The legal boundaries of the project, the proposed access control, location of the facility, buildings, transmission lines, and other structures, location and use of access ways, internal roads, existing or proposed utilities, compliance with the applicable setback requirements that are set out by the statutes, and evaluation of the noise levels. So let me walk through a little bit about what the criteria are for evaluating an application, and then I'll talk about some of the items that are not evaluated as part of the criteria of the evaluation of the Public Service Commission. So the statute outlines the criteria to grant or deny the application. The impact on the scenic surroundings, property values in surrounding roads, anticipated noise levels during construction, economic impact on the region and the state, if the proposed facility meets local planning and zoning requirements, impact of the additional load on the reliability of jurisdictional utilities, setback requirements, the efficacy of mitigation measures proposed by the applicant. So if they are proposing different things for screening or noise, how effective is it going to be? Whether the applicant has a good environmental compliance history. So those are the primary. If you look at some of the other projects that have been approved by the siting board, the plants, some of the conditions that have been required by the Public Service Commission is to plant native species to shield the project and preserve scenic surroundings, limit construction hours to reduce the impact of noise, generally from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. They're required to repair damage to roads, bridges, and that has to be coordinated with the counties as well as the Transportation Cabinet in Frankfurt. Specific decommissioning plans and an estimated of that cost. And this is really important, that is a condition up front before it ever gets approved, that they have a decommissioning plan. If it stops functioning as a solar facility, then the decommissioning plan and the land restoration. and a bond with the county or counties for the life of the project to ensure that the decommissioning occurs. Okay, so some of the solar project conditions from other cases. We've established the Public Service Commission has required, or the Siting Board has required, a complaint process. How do you file a complaint if you believe they're not following the noise or the dust control or the transportation? We generally require notification of the PSC prior to construction beginning. So not all of the permits will be ready to go at the time that the decision is made. You know, what's the status on getting the permits and starting construction? Once the operation of the facility begins and it starts generating electricity, all of that review turns over to the Energy and Environment Cabinet. And there is a requirement they must continue to hold a permit. They file a permit fee. There's a decommissioning plan that has to be updated on a regular basis as part of that review process. So once it starts operation, it's out of the Public Service Commission's hand and it goes to the Energy and Environment Cabinet. This is one of the things I want to make sure that everyone understands. Things the Siting Board does not review. Is this the highest or best use of the land in question? And are there alternative locations for the project? And I want to make sure everybody understands that. It's not that the commission or the Siting Board does not appreciate that, but we are limited by what's in the statute of what the criteria are to decide on a project. So, okay. So just to talk a little bit about the project itself for Wood Duck Solar, case number 2024-00337. The notice of intent was filed with the Siting Board on November 20th, 2024. So the application and the site assessment report, although they have to file it at least 30 days in advance, they can have up to 6 months afterwards. So in this case, the application and the site assessment report were filed on May 19th, 2025. The proposed facility is a 100 megawatts solar facility, 2,200 acre site in Barron County. The applicant notified adjacent landowners on April 24th, 2024, and the applicant conducted a public meeting on August 22nd, 2024. Okay. So what are the next steps? So in addition to this public meeting tonight, the formal evidentiary hearing, and that means where witnesses from all the parties will be sworn in. The witnesses will provide testimony. They'll be asked questions by the Public Service Commission staff. They'll be asked questions by any interveners in the case, their attorneys. So that formal hearing will occur on October 2nd, 2025 at the PSC in Frankfurt, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So oral public comments can be offered at the beginning of that hearing. You can come to Frankfurt and make those in person, or you can notify the Public Service Commission that you would like to make those comments virtually. 24 hours before the hearing start, we will contact you on how to make that. And please understand, we don't simply publish that because we don't want to have people bombing our virtual process. So you will be given that link the day before. There will also be instructions on how you notify us. So you may also provide public comments in writing. There's no limit to how many times you want to make a public comment. If you leave here tonight and you think, I really wanted to say something else, you can participate in the public hearing, comment at the beginning of the hearing, or you can send in an email, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So the email, include the case number, and that's why I wanted to make sure that you had that case number, 2024-00337. The email address there is psc.comment@ky.gov. Provide your full name and your address and in the body of the email. If you want to write a letter, you can send that P.O. Box 615, 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602. There's also a web form that if you go to our website and you click on the tab that says Contact Us, about the second heading down is if you would like to make a public comment in a case. All you have to do is type in the case number. Again, fill out your name and address, and you can type in a box right there, and you can do that on your phone. at any time, and that goes straight into the case record. What I want you to understand is that tonight, and any public comments you make, unless you specifically say, I don't want this in the public record, it all becomes part of the record of the case. The commissioners do read it. They will read any public comments that come along. And you can provide public comments all the way up until the evidentiary hearing, probably about 2 weeks beyond that. Once it gets beyond that, we're pretty close to making a decision, yay or nay, and it may not have as much impact as it would if you were to do something before then. So I just want to make sure you understand at any time you can provide public comments. Okay, Glenn. So the case-related comments while a case is in progress are official. They are on the record. And then all documents within a case are publicly available online. So again, if you go to the Public Service Commission website, everything that has been filed in this case is in that case record. There's another tab that it says Commission Records. It's got search for cases, and you type in that number 2024-00337, and it'll pull up the entire from the application on. There's a little tab over to the left that says where public comments, and you can see all the public comments that have been filed in the case. Statutorily, the decision must be made by November 14th, 2025. So that's the other thing that I want to keep in mind. So when I say if you would like to make additional public comments at any time, I mean, the order's got to go out by November 14th. So if you want to have your say and have it impact the commissioners and them able to read it, you need to be able to do that before November 14th. Okay. With that, I'm going to open up the floor. If you have any questions about the process of the case, if you start asking questions, and I want to make sure I explain something. When I say we can't answer questions about the details of the case, that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask them. It might be something that the commissioners had not thought about. They will not respond to you, but that doesn't mean that they won't ask the applicant during the hearing. So if you are curious about something that you haven't seen in the record that you think needs to be there, if you have a question, feel free to answer it. What I just want to explain is it's a little bit awkward because there will not be an attempt to answer that tonight. Once the public comment period begins, the commissioners will take public comments. Again, they will not respond to the public comments, but it's your opportunity for the folks in Barron County for you to have your say, your public, local, hopefully a little more convenient than having to come to Frankfurt if you want to have a say in this. So are there any questions about the process in the case or the process for public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain to the group as to how many cases you guys have not approved and what is the expectation as far as approval and conditions?
I cannot provide you the expectation. That would be prejudicing, but I can tell you there have been something like 38 cases that have been filed. I think one of them has been denied. And
no, I'm speaking in general, how many cases that the PSC has denied?
That's what I said. I said 30. I believe it's one.
Okay. One.
So one of the cases was denied. A number of them have been withdrawn, but those are the number of cited board. Yes, sir.
I have a couple of brief questions that are kind of technical in nature, just some things we touched on that. Decommissioning. When you guys decide, when you guys...
That's a question that we're not going to... This is just about the process of the case. Okay. So you can bring that up during the public comment. You can ask that question. You're just not going to get an answer from the commission.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Here on the front row, yes.
I want to know if the 3 commissioners got a copy of the letter from Mammoth Caves National Park about how this is going to be built within the watershed.
Everything that has been received is in the case record.
Okay, and then I have a question independent of that. So it seems like before projects get approval, they don't get looked at by the Army Corps of Engineers or like any serious like geoengineering, or they just don't seem like they get any serious inspection. And it feels to me kind of like building a spec house and then getting approval for the spec house after it's built. So why is that?
Okay, well, first of all, I don't know that I can answer your question about why is that. The information that's required to be provided by the statute is what the applicant looks at, and the commission makes a determination whether they have met the standards that are in the statute of the criteria. Now, this is not the final approval process. There are a number of permits that have to occur, and a lot of them happen within the Energy and Environment Cabinet. So that's why some of the process, either when they start construction or after they start operating, that goes to the Energy and Environment Cabinet.
It seems like it just would have killed it right off the bat if you look at the CARS maps and the watershed.
Okay,
and
again, this
everything,
is a little more.
Okay.
Save that for the public comments. Okay, so this is. I understand your question, but I think that would be more appropriate for the public comments. So, any other questions about the process of the case or public comments? I know you all are anxious to provide comments. So, with that, does it have the slide on the PSC website at the end? Okay. So we will leave this up for the duration. So if you didn't get a chance, if you didn't write it down or you didn't hear me, here's again our website, our email address, and then the case number that you would reference during that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the commissioners to open up the part of the public comment period.
That's a sensitive mic. All right. Can you guys hear? Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission, and joining me tonight is Commissioner Andrew Wood. He was just appointed last week, so this is his second public comment hearing. We had one last night in Louisville for a different case. And I want to start by thanking every one of you for coming, for caring enough to come out and spend your evening making your voices heard. As Linda said, we are not allowed to answer your questions tonight. We're the judges in the case, and as such, we shouldn't prejudge a case. But if you've ever watched one of our hearings, you may notice that commissioners will ask questions of witnesses at the hearing that we heard at these public comment hearings. You know, we'll someone ask a question that piqued our interest, and we'll ask that question of the witnesses. By testifying tonight, the video goes into the record. It's as if you've testified in the case. Becomes part of the public comment. You're not going to get your questions answered by us tonight, but your questions are being heard and being made part of the comment of the case. So the process is that I'm going to give 7 minutes, and Commissioner Wood has been kind enough to offer to record for me, and I'm going to ask that everyone adhere to the 7-minute limit. We'll give you this when you've got 1 minute left. The reason for that is because everybody is passionate about this subject, but if we let everybody go on and talk 2 hours, not everybody can stay that long. Not everybody's going to get to talk. Everybody made the time to come out tonight, so we're going to make sure everybody gets a chance by limiting the comments to 7 minutes. Also, I know I don't have to tell Kentuckians this, but we're going to be nice. We're going to be polite. We're going to be courteous to one another. We do these all over the state, and we've never had an issue with people being mean or threatening one another. You know, neighbors can have differing opinions and not be mean to each other. So we're going to be courteous, and we're going to listen when other people talk and not try to talk over them, adhere to the time limit, and be respectful of the process. We are happy to come and do this. We want to hear what you have to say. We've driven all the way down here. We want to hear it, but let us hear it by not talking when other people are talking and adhering to the time limit. I feel like a kindergarten teacher now because I repeated it too many times. I'm going to go through this list and call the names of the folks that have indicated yes, they wanted to speak. When I get to the end of the list, I'll give you a chance. If you had said no, but you changed your mind and now you want to speak, I'll give you that chance. We're going to stay here until you guys are done talking, okay? So we'll go through the list of everyone who said yes, that they wanted to speak, and then we will go back through and see if there is anyone else who changed their mind and now wants to speak. I also want to compliment you guys on your excellent handwriting. I have terrible handwriting, and if I mispronounce your name, it is my fault because you guys have pretty good handwriting. But I think that's all I needed to say, other than if you don't comment tonight and you still have things that you want to tell us, there's lots of opportunities still. Email, mail, participating virtually the day of the hearing, or coming in person on the day of the hearing. We don't start the hearing until people who came in person and wanted to speak are done speaking. So we will give you plenty of other opportunities if you don't speak tonight, but we're going to stay here till everybody's done talking tonight. All right, 7 minutes at a time. The first name on my list is Lonnie Calvert. And just come right to this microphone. Tell us your full name and address, and then we'll start the timer. Lonnie Calvert. Here we go. There you go. Mr. Calvert, just tell us your full name and address, and then we'll start the timer. 7 minutes.
7 minutes? Thank you. Lonnie Calvert, 9700 Lower River Road, Louisville, Kentucky. I appreciate you guys allowing me to speak. Good evening. I just wanted to be on record and say that and speak on behalf of the Laborers International Union of North America, Local 1392 out of Owensboro, and the Laborers International Union of North America supports this project. And the reason why we support the project, we realize that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I've been to these all across the state, and I hear the same thing over and over again. So I would urge the folks in this community to keep an open mind, educate yourself, and don't believe everything you're told, and actually do your research. I mean, this is new technology, and I don't have to explain to the Public Service Commission about the need to put more energy on the grid. But let's face it, with the crumbling infrastructure in this country, with AI, the need for data centers, I mean, the need is going to be there, and we've got to do something. And coal and natural gas is not going to plug that hole. So we totally support this project because we need more power on the grid. Number one. Number two, for the taxpayers and for the people who live in this county, for the tax base that the county is going to get out of this as well. We support that. But more importantly, you know, we're a labor organization. We're a union. So we put people to work. So I'm here to talk about jobs. And so what I hear time and time again is that these will be temporary jobs. Well, this is what I say to that. That's the nature of construction. You're constantly working on a job site. You build a project, you move on to the next one. So technically you could call that temporary. But the way we look at it is these folks will take these skills that they learn on this project, and they're transferable skills to where they can stay in this community and work on other union projects out of this local union's jurisdiction and turn around and have a permanent career path, not just a temporary job. So that's why we support this job, and we would urge the PSC to support this job as well. We have local unions in Paducah, Owensboro, Louisville, Lexington, and Catlettsburg, Kentucky. So again, we support this job, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker I have on my list is Jim Stevens. Just tell us full name and address, please, and then 7 minutes.
My name is Jimmy Stevens. My address is 6990 Dripping Springs Road, Smiths Grove, Kentucky, but it is in Berrien County. Okay. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of those who will be affected, I think we can say negatively, by the solar project. It's my understanding that a study was commissioned by the individuals involved in the Wood Duck solar project to do an impact study involving the roads that are in the area of the Wood Duck Solar Project. I think the project was probably, or the study was probably completed somewhere around March the 27th of 2023. I think a quick review of the findings would be beneficial and very appropriate at this time. The report spent a great deal of space and time talking about the impact to the Cumberland Parkway and described the project as being generally along the Cumberland Parkway. And it would be one of the 4 locations that will be impacted the most. The only thing about this is that there is no entrance or exit from the Cumberland Parkway in the area of the solar project. It will not be used as much as the report seemed to indicate, and it just simply goes through the area, not having any entrances or exits into the project area. Highway 255 will also be one of those roads that will be involved. That's better known as the Park City Bon Air Road. Depending on which way where you live, it might also be known as the Bon Air Park City Road. But this is a major road. It is a state road. The report states that it is level with no shoulders, but a lane width of 10.5 feet. The base flow free speed is listed at 55 miles per hour, but the average speed is more realistic, which is 38.5. And 38.5 is a very realistic speed if you drive Highway 255 between Bon Air and Park City. There are also buses, farm equipment that travel Highway 255 on a daily basis during the time that school is in session. And there's also the Apple Grove Road, which is County Road 1339. The report stated that the road is not level, it has no shoulders, lane width of 9 feet for a total of 18 feet. The base speed is listed as 55 miles per hour and the average speed of 38.1 miles per hour. Residents understand why the speed must be much lower than 55 when you're traveling the Apple Grove Road. It's curvy, it's rolling, it has no dividing lines, it has no shoulders. I took it upon myself to just go over the roads that I'm talking about last night, and these are all made worse during the spring and summer times whenever the grass and the brush and the weeds are growing up and have not been mowed. You cannot see the edges of the road. I want to also say that for 10 years I drove a school bus over these roads that we're going to be talking about. And even without the thought of having to meet with heavy equipment or anything, driving a school bus over these roads is a very stressful situation. Whenever you put the big equipment and the other travel and the vehicles that will be involved with the solar project, it is going to make it that much more serious as far as our students are concerned. Also, they list as having studied County Road 1001, which is the Oak Grove Church Road. Stantec says it is level and it has a lane of 9 feet. They say the speed limit is 55 and the average travel speed is 38.5 miles per hour. Again, those of us who live along this area know this to be a curvy, rolling road with blind spots and no shoulders. And again, whenever you put the spring and summer seasons in session and not having been mowed, you cannot see even the edge of the road in some places along these roads that I am talking about. The road is narrow. It ranges from anywhere from 14.6 to 15.2 feet. That is absolutely too narrow to even think about having to meet with heavy equipment and other things like that. One road that was not mentioned, and it's a very important road, is the Millstown Road. It travels from Highway 255 all the way to Highway 6880. Travels through many of the areas that will be involved in the project. It is a small, narrow road, curvy, winding. There are a lot of gullies along the side of it that if you drive a truck car off into, you're going to get stuck and you're not going to give out. There's an Amish community with a business, a small Amish school on this road. It's heavily traveled by Amish buggies, single horses, as well as vehicles going to and from that Amish business. To summarize and just simply say this, the roads in the area of the Wood Duck Solar Project are not good enough to meet the needs of the traffic that will come as a result of the Wood Duck Project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Paula Pettigo or Pettigo?
Good evening. Would like to say thank you to Ms. Linda for answering all my many questions to get us to this part of this process. And we thank you guys for coming down to listen to us today. As Mr. Stevens just mentioned, Wood Duck has had to submit a lot of studies here to the PSC to review. There's a noise study, a glare study, a traffic study, landscaping, decommissioning, interconnectivity, critical issues, wetlands, and our local planning commission. Planning commission, they had all this information, did not review it. So that's why we're here today. They asked 4 questions on these thousands of pages of materials. Now we have a project. It's been approved on the local level. So Frankfurt is saying, well, the locals approved it. So that's why we're here today, to tell the to tell the residents and the public, to tell you that the residents did not have an opportunity to talk about this project, and it was indeed done in the dark. You can ask our judge. She didn't do a thing. She says it's all up to Frankfurt. Frankfurt says, well, the locals approved it. So you got fingerprints going both ways. So here we are, just to talk about it. I do have for our judge tonight a packet of 52 letters that have been signed by the locals asking her to take a stand against this project. All right, so how did we get here? This is really close up here to me. Move back some. So how did we get here? Who's Gen X and who's Mr. Furr? Well, this is not the first project Gen X has had here in Kentucky. They've tried at least 5 others, the most recent in Harrison County called Bluebird. They just sold it to another company. Actually, they sold it before it started producing energy. Now it's owned by a company, an LLC out of California. I'm still trying to find out where those lease contracts are that were signed with the landowners. Now they're assigned to a new owner. No one's been able to ask this question. Not at the PSC. Spoke with the Harrison County judge. We're still trying to find out who's responsible. State law says 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet from schools and hospitals. But the state law also says that the locals can change it and that locals rule. And that's the same for the decommissioning plan that this guy over here has mentioned. The local plan rules. Well, Gen X is a little bit smarter than Barron County. Here's how it happened. In a written statement from Kevin Myatt, he stated in 2018, Gen X brought to the attention of the Planning Commission that we didn't have any solar regulations in our solar provisions in our regulations. So he asked them, or they asked the Kevin Myatt to add some in. So he did. He gave us the 50-20-10, 50 feet in the front, 20 feet on the side, or in the back, 10 feet on the sides, and a decommissioning plan that has absolutely no teeth in it. No requirement for a bond, no requirement for insurance. You can read it. All right, well, and in a podcast with our county judge, Myatt says he was tasked with making this happen. That's an interesting choice of words. So Myatt wrote it up, sent it into the fiscal court, February of 2019. Motion carried with all yeses. Magistrate Coomer and Pettigo are the only 2 surviving members who approved these new setbacks of 50-20-10. All was quiet till 2024, sort of. In the meantime, there's a Gen X project that's still brewing right here in Barron County called Woodpecker, case number 2020-00261. working with Judge Schultz and Kara Price. 15 months later, after the setbacks were approved in fiscal court on July 31st of 2020, they filed a notice of intent with the PSC. Then they filed a motion over COVID, and they filed another motion, October the 15th, 2020, they sold this project to EDF Renewables. Keep that in mind, EDF, Electricity de France. 1 year and 2 months later, on 12/20/2021, they withdrew their motion of intent. Gone away. All right, so I've submitted open records request to our county judge and to Mr. Myatt. There are no files on Woodpecker. Imagine that, no files. Gen X met with them, got what they asked for, but they didn't meet with him about this project. Didn't give an application to our local guys or anything. No records, no files. Isn't that interesting? All right, well, here comes Wood Duck. Wood Duck comes along. So you got Woodpecker and you got Wood Duck. So we've heard all kinds of dates, right? County judge, Mr. Myatt, all kinds of dates. According to Wood Duck, they started having meetings in June of 2019, but the leases with the landowners weren't signed until January of 2023. Judge Bird says it's a done deal when she came into office. Well, that's not exactly true. She met with them in February, October, November, and December of 2023 that we know of. Did she disclose this to the public or even the magistrates? Did anybody know? So you got Woodpecker, July of 2020, Wood Duck, rolling at the same time. Nobody knew. There's no files. Nobody has a file. Nobody can answer anything. So Wood Duck, meanwhile, they're whining and dining. They're taking people out to lunches, taking them on trips, taking them to see the building that they lease there in North Carolina. Woodpecker apparently files directly with the commissioner. Myatt says they didn't give anything to him. Interesting. So does this seem really odd? Yeah. Made with friends with Myatt. He gave them exactly what they asked for, but then they go over his head and file with the state. But there's no files. What's going on in Marion County? All right, well, since December of 2023, when the project was approved by our local planning commission, county judge, Wood Duck, they've all been talking these same points. It's a done deal. And yes, we know this is false. It's been repeated again and again. We're here tonight, and we thank you for at least letting us know that, or voice that it is not indeed a done deal. Before the record, I do want to object to the county judge and our planning commissioner serving on the ad hoc committee, since they have already approved this project and have spoken and yielding support for the project. They've hung out together on podcasts, meetings, trying to keep your story straight, yet the files are missing and no one can answer the questions, like who paid for travel? Did you disclose this on your ethics report? 1 minute. Oh, man, I didn't get it near where I need to go. All right. We did have a $10,000 donation from Wood Duck to our county judge's nonprofit. That was made 6 weeks before the project was approved by our local planning commission. We believe that to be a donation from a prohibited source and a violation of our local ethics. As far as information sessions, I believe we had that on the screen up there. I do want the Public Commission to note those meetings were before the project was approved. There were no meetings, no input from the public in any way whatsoever before this project was approved by the local planning commission. We've got ads. They've sent letters, and I have for you a packet of letters. They actually sent letters. They said, "Dear homeowner, we are proposing." I have a stack of 21 letters from a local farmer, from other solar companies that he has received. Generally, they're addressed to the person's name, and they will give specific information. Wood Duck didn't do that. They sent bogus letters. Nothing said, "We have been approved by your local planning commission, and we're going to build a project here." It was hidden. It was done in the dark, and no one knew, and there was no input from our public at all. So I'd like to present those to you, as well as 2 flyers. Wood Duck submitted to the PSC a flyer that has the incorrect date on it. I'm also going to submit a brochure to you from Wood Duck. They had a placard at the public hearing, and it does not give any indication at all that there is a hearing by the Public Service Commission or any opportunity to give public comment in any way whatsoever.
I'll ask you to give those things
So-
to staff here.
Okay.
Again, you can comment online on the day of the hearing
Okay.
by Zoom, or you can come in person and comment some more at the day of the hearing if you'd like to.
Sure.
Gosh. I've never had anyone ask that before. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll be back. Thank you.
Okay. You will have lots more opportunities. If this was the only chance you got, I would say yes. But you can get on the Zoom, or It's not that bad a drive to Frankfurt if you wanted to come in person. We'll make it twice today, so. All right. And while she's finishing up, we can alert the next speaker. Looks like Daryl Burks. All right,
My
Mr.
name-
Burks is ready to speak if we can give him our attention. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Daryl Burks. I live at 1029 Seascape Lane in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. I support this project. The reason being is because I was born and raised here in Barron County, and I love the county. I saw the county about 4 decades ago go through a period of time when it was not prospering at all. I've seen what happens when a county cannot provide the resources that the individuals, the businesses require. I have sat on committees in other counties that evaluated such actions as this. When a business comes to your county, they don't just look at the labor force. They look at what utility resources are afforded them. If the county cannot provide that, they will walk out of the first meeting in a hurry. Barron County, I'm proud to say, is now a prospering community. It's growing. The family homes are back building again. Industry's coming into town. Folks, our current supply of electricity depends on gas and coal. Ladies and gentlemen, that cheap coal supply in the eastern and western part of the state of Kentucky, that cheap coal is gone. That's been easily mined. It's no longer there. They're having to go much deeper. It's more expensive, and we can't depend on those resources to be the only source of energy that we can use to convert to electricity. We have to use alternative sources. We've got the one best source that God has ever created, and that's our universe. We have the sun. It doesn't cost you or I one penny. But by being able to harvest the sun, we can convert that energy into a usable source that I dare say every one of us in this meeting uses. And if you're fighting this and you're opposed to it, sit back and ask yourself, am I using electricity in my home? That I enjoy my air conditioning? You better believe I do, and I want to continue that. Now, am I concerned with the environment? Sure. You better believe I am. But ladies and gentlemen, we cannot depend upon just gas and coal. We have to have alternative sources. Solar is one, wind power is another. And I don't think most of you want a windmill next to your house. Solar panels don't make noise. Solar panels are just like the leaves on the trees. They are solar panels. They capture the energy from the sun. They convert it into a usable source that we can convert for our use. Now, in order for this county to continue to progress and grow, we have to have a dependable resource. As all of you know, you cannot store electricity. You can't build it up during one time and store it. There's no such thing as storing electricity. So you have to have a constant supply 24/7. Now, with the greater demand and all communities that are growing, and South Central Kentucky here is growing with leaps and bounds, we will all benefit. Every one of us will benefit from it. But I ask you one thing. Would you rather have a windmill or a solar panel, or for God bid, would you rather have a nuclear reactor plant sitting in Bonaire? Ask yourself that question. Thank you.
Terrell Renfro.
Terrell Renfro, 1998, Bypass South, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, 40342. Yeah, I might be a little taller than everybody here. Let's do this. So I appreciate your all's time and the chance to speak tonight. I'm Terrell Renfro. I'm speaking on behalf of Kentucky Laborers Local 1392. We are here supporting Wood Duck Solar. Wood Duck Solar will be beneficial by bringing local jobs for the local community. The Kentucky Laborers have a program actually called Local Jobs for Local Workers. Many will be from Barron County and the surrounding counties. We work with community programs to recruit workers. Our apprenticeship program trains the members to have the skills necessary to complete this job and then have opportunities for more jobs. These jobs are not temporary, but can lead to permanent career paths. This career will support working families by giving wages over $30 an hour and pensions. By having local workers, the community sees the revenue when they keep their house here, when they pay school taxes, and they keep the tax base. So when a community becomes a green energy community, this will attract other industries, which will increase economic development opportunities. Wood Duck Solar will be constructed under the National Tri-Trade Solar Agreement, which is an innovative partnership between the laborers, operating engineers, and the electricians' unions. That will streamline the construction process and reduce the burdens on developers, contractors, and customers to meet the requirements of federal regulations and clear regulatory hurdles. So as I close, Wood Duck Solar will bring local jobs for the local community, and we support this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, it looks like Margie Dawsey. If I mispronounce a name, please just correct me when you come up. Can someone help adjust that mic? There we go, Glenn.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Glenn. All right. Tell us your full name and tell me if I pronounced that right. Did I pronounce your name right? Is it Dossie? Yeah. Go right ahead.
I am here to speak for a people who are not permitted to speak for themselves. I'm here to speak for the Amish. I have 2 letters that I'd like to read. To whom it may concern, we are a part of the old order Amish community of Park City, Kentucky. We hear that some of our neighbors have leased their farms to a company called Wood Duck Solar. They plan to put thousands of solar panels which will completely surround our homes. We are concerned with health issues and knowing that many of the chemicals used in these panels are hazardous material and cause cancer and other illnesses. We are concerned with the health of our children and of ourselves, and the fact that our homes and our farm will be surrounded. These are gentle people who live off the land. Every year, we have a deer season in November. We have lived here for 8 years, and every year I have been able to harvest deer right here at home, which brings good, healthy meat to the table for the family. The way I see it, and I want you to think about this, if they put solar panels all around the way of our farm with 6 to 10 feet chain link fences, there will be no more deer, which means Wood Duck Solar will literally be taking good, healthy, God-given food out of the mouth of our children. I love sitting in a tree stand and watching the sun rise in the morning, watching the squirrels digging around in the leaves, listening to the birds sing their morning songs. But with solar panels all around that, a way of life will be forever gone. Let's talk about heat. A good hot summer day is 90 degrees usually. With solar panels, a hot summer day will be 120 degrees, which will be unbearable. We do not have air conditioning. We rely on open windows and cool nights. But if we open our windows, we still be exposed to the toxic air of the solar panels. We like to go fishing for a fresh meal of fish, but our fish will be contaminated from water runoff of the solar panels. Another way of life forever gone. We try to live off the land as much as possible, but with solar panels, there will be no deer. Our vegetables, our milk, our livestock will be contaminated by the runoff. Let's keep this beautiful county clean, the farmland usable, our families safe and intact, our streams, ponds, underground waterways clean, keep all our animals, wild and domestic, safe and healthy. So we humbly ask you and pray to God that you will please consider our concerns before you approve such a project as this proposed by Wood Duck Solar. Sincerely. I'm not done. We, the undersigned, are members of the Old Order Amish congregation,
Ma'am,
so-called Park City.
since you only have 1 minute, we could let somebody else read that letter.
I'm sorry?
We only have less than a minute left. If you wanted to maybe let somebody else read that letter, or we'll let you talk for, you have 1 minute left. So if you could let somebody else read that letter if you wanted to, or you can definitely submit them to us. I just don't want you to run out of time. Yeah, we could do that.
I leave us with this word. The second commandment in the 10 Commandments says, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself."
Michelle Snyder.
Hi, my name is Michelle Snyder. I live at 1949 Green Valley Road here in Glasgow, Kentucky. Can you hear me now? Move it up. Is that better? Okay. So we're from the West, and I feel like more daily we're Gabriel's army, that we came here to tell people what is on the horizon. I would encourage you to watch some YouTube videos on Eagle Point, Oregon. Eagle Point was the town next to us that when they put a solar farm in and it caught on fire because they get really, really hot, the fire department didn't know how to put them out because it's an electrical fire. So they burned for 4 days, and all the neighbors had to shelter in place because the air was poison. In Southern Oregon, where we come from, it's mostly lava rock, so the water is really pure. It filters a lot through lava. Well, moving here, my husband is an engineer, and we've discovered that due to the limestone and the way the cave systems are set up, the water doesn't filter in the same way. So these solar panels, when they catch on fire, and they do often, it's gonna drip directly into the Mammoth Cave watershed, which is the largest cave system that we know of on the planet. I don't know if you got the letter that the Mammoth Cave National Park, this strongly worded letter that they sent encouraging this project to cease. GeneX didn't even have the foresight to talk with them about their intentions for Barron County, which I find very curious. The Army Corps of Engineers doesn't seem to have any information on this stuff, but when we look at the karst maps, the water is going to pool directly underneath the land. And so anything, all the rare earth minerals, the lead, the cadmium, can potentially poison our land and our water forever. Forever. I've tried to tell the landowners, I've spoken with them, God has put them in front of me, which is amazing.
And they think that they're doing their families a favor by giving them a couple $1,000,000. One gentleman had his little granddaughter, he was picking her up from school, and he was like, I want to give her our 500 acres. And I said, what you're going to most likely give her is a super fun site. I encourage anyone here to go on the internet and look at what happened in Palm Springs, California, with the largest solar farm in existence. These companies bankrupt often. They pass, it's worse than the mortgage crisis of 2008. They transfer the land titles and the contracts so nobody knows who owns what. And when the rubber hits the road, I don't care how much of a bond they put up, if they can even prove that they have the money, which largely they can't, it's not going to be enough. And I'd like to dispute the union guys that have been here saying that we don't have enough power. I'm in communication with the president of Farmers Rec, our local co-op, often, and he assures me constantly that our power grid is amazingly well put together and well managed, and at least for the next 10 years, our energy independence is assured. And they do look into other forms of alternative energy. They're working with the TVA on alternative energy sources. So them trying to scare people saying that we're gonna need power and we love our AC, and I'm telling you, that's not the truth. Like, our power, I can tell you who has a problem with power. It's Oregon, where we come from, because they were so green that they took out all the hydroelectric dams to save the fish. So not only did they flood all of the deer and raccoons, and like people went out because the poor deer were in like 6 feet of mud. Now, my mom, who still lives there, is suffering from rolling brownouts, and her electricity bill has gone up 150% in the last year. So if you want to see how bad this stuff can get, I encourage you to take a trip out west. Go talk to some Californians, or here locally. There's a lot of us. We've lived it. We know what this looks like. The hail here breaks them, shatters glass everywhere. Does anybody go out and pick it up? No, they can't, because there's giant fences. Like the Amish said, you can't get in there. You can't clean it up. This is like serious stuff. And being born in Seattle, I feel like I can say this. Chief Seattle, if anyone has never heard the quote, he said something, I butcher this stuff, but along the lines of, when all the fish are dead and all the trees are cut down, man will have to realize that he can't eat money.
Nadine Hawkins.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us to speak. I'm Nadine Hawkins. My address is 190 Cane Run Cemetery Road, Mumfordville, but I'm a co-owner of 113 acres with 4,875 linear feet of property line adjacent to the Wood Duck Solar Project. I stand before you today to discuss this matter of significant public interest. Specifically, I want to draw your attention to the economic impact analysis prepared by Dr. Paul Coombs, an economist hired by GeneX Solar, the developer of the Wood Duck Solar Project. A careful review of two versions of his analysis reveals something deeply concerning, a dramatic shift in the projected economic benefits that warrants our immediate and critical attention. The Barron County Planning Commission initially received an economic impact analysis from Dr. Coombs, a revised draft dated June 1st, 2023. This report laid out the expected benefits from the Wood Duck Solar Project. In that initial assessment, we were told to anticipate a total of 323 new jobs during the construction phase, Coombs clearly states he doesn't know the exact number of workers that will be hired because Wood Duck Genex will enter into an engineering, procurement, and construction contract for this project. They will bring out-of-state workers for the construction and fence labor. New labor compensation of $20.2 million during construction. Coombs wrote, thus the predicted impact of the new construction wages is also relatively small. And crucially, a projection of $2.4 million in local revenue over 4 decades from payments in lieu of taxes or pilots, an average of roughly $60,000 per year. Those numbers were presented at the experts' findings. They gave us a picture of the project's economic footprint. But then, just a few months later, we received a new document, a revised and expanded draft dated December 13th, 2024. And the numbers, particularly for our long-term local benefits, had changed, and not just a little, but dramatically. In this later analysis, the construction numbers saw a slight adjustment downwards to 295 new jobs and $17.7 million in labor compensation. While these are shifts, they are not the most striking. The most striking change, the one that should make us all pause and ask serious questions, is the new projection for long-term tax revenues to local jurisdictions. That $2.4 million over 40 years, it suddenly jumped to an astounding $15.1 million over the same period for local jurisdictions, with a significant $11 million of that earmarked for our county school system. That's an average of $378,000 per year, more than 6 times the previous estimate. Why such a drastic change? What new unforeseen economic forces or groundbreaking insights emerged in those few months to cause such a monumental revision? Dr. Coombs attributes this dramatic increase primarily to updated tax projections related to their capital expenditures provided by the company itself, by Genex Solar. He explains that this includes equipment classified as manufacturing machinery, which is taxed at the state level, and the increased value of the land due to improvements and notably the lease payments to landowners. Property tax bills on the properties included in this project were approximately $17,000 for 2023. The only improvement to the land will be fences and gravel. The lease payment offered to us by Wood Duck for a portion of our 113 acres was roughly 3 times the amount per acre of our current farm lease. So a back-of-the-envelope calculation indicates a property assessment increase of approximately 3 times the current assessment, or 3 times $17,000, which equals $51,000. This represents an increase of only $34,000 per year and must be offset by reduced assessments for properties within 1 mile of the solar project that are estimated to lose 8.7% of their value based on research from the University of Wyoming. Additionally, the land leases state that Wood Duck will pay for any property tax increases on the leased land. Wouldn't it be reasonable to expect that Wood Duck will work to minimize this expense? Now let's be clear, experts are human. Analyses can be refined and new data can emerge. But when the revisions are this substantial and when they are explicitly based on data provided by the very entity that stands to benefit immensely from a more favorable economic forecast, it raises a fundamental question. Can we truly trust the independence of this analysis? When a consultant's updated findings, particularly those related to a project's financial benefits to the community, align so perfectly and so dramatically with the interests of their client, it creates an appearance that is at best uncomfortable. It suggests that the numbers may have shifted to meet a perceived need rather than as a purely objective recalculation based on independently verified facts. We are told that the land value is enhanced due to fencing and other improvements and by the lease payments. But are these new valuations independently assessed and confirmed, or simply a projection provided by the developer? I'm sorry?
1 minute left.
Oh, The report does not detail an independent verification process for these new company-provided figures. We deserve transparency and truly independent analysis when multi-million-dollar projects are proposed for our land and our future. We must ask, what due diligence performed on these updated tax projections from the company? Were these new valuations independently verified by a third party, or are we simply taking the developer's word for it? And why was such crucial information that multiplied the projected local benefits by over 6 times, not available or considered in the initial draft? It compels us to ask independent verification because the integrity of our decision-making process depends on it. Let us not be swayed by dramatically revised figures without a clear, independently verifiable explanation for their sudden appearance. Our community's future is too important to base on numbers that shift so conveniently. Thank you.
Thank you. Andreas Albert.
Raise this thing up here just a tad here. Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, panel. My name is Andreas Albert, and I'm kind of like the new kid on the block here. I bought 110 acres back in 2020 on Millstown Road. And when I first came out here, I looked at the land. It was a beautiful piece of land. And I walked it with my real estate agent. And I've always wanted to have a slice of Kentucky because I always loved to come out this way. And also, I love to do my deer hunting. So I purchased the property, and I prayed about it. And my goal was to make the property better than I received it. And I'm a firm believer that we're all stewards of the land. And so it had 2 big, huge barns on it, and which they were just completely very unsafe. So we got rid of those, and I put a fence up around the property and also put up a gate. And so, as the time went on, years went on, rather, wood duck came in, and I was kind of curious about it, so I contacted them to see what it was all about, and I thought about it. And so I received the contract on that, so I pretty much read it, and also had my attorney, which is from Bowling Green, Kentucky, read it. And so I heard there were other neighbors that were around me that are definitely for this project. And I thought about it, because I know it's going to provide tax dollars for Barron County, for the school system, road system, and it's just going to provide tax dollars, period. And I get that. And so as I read through it, there was just too many red flags in there for me. And my attorney, which I contacted him also, and we spoke about it. And he even said, he goes, there's just way too many red flags in that, for the payment of $600 an acre, which sounded good. But for me, it was not all about the money. It was about stewardship, about this land. The people who lived there worked it before I did, because I'm the new kid on the block here. And so my big concern was, right now as we're speaking, let me back that up a little bit. So I read the contract, and he told me it was just too many red flags in it. So I called the person who was in charge of doing the leasing around this area with all the other neighbors surrounding me. I'm right in the middle of all that, and all my other neighbors, which I've heard their name, but I have not met a lot of them personally. And so I decided, I said, you know what, I'd like to build myself a beautiful home on that property, because that way it gives me a way from Nashville to come up here, kind of relax and just chill out, walk the property, go hunting, and just get away from all the craziness from downtown Nashville. So I decided to back out of that deal. And I've had other friends, other people tell me, it's when it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And so with this panel here, I know it's about the money, but my biggest concern here is, let's just say if this thing does go through and these guys sell this stuff off to somebody else and then something goes wrong, who's going to pick up the chips? My property aligns right with where they're going to clear cut. I don't know what the setbacks are now. Either we're saying 25, they're 8 or whatever. And I've noticed a few times my neighbors called me because when the wind cuts through these fields, I mean, it causes havoc around here. I mean, it just knocks trees down. It knocked a few of them down in the middle of the road. I can walk the property. It knocks them on the back edge and inside the woods even. And my main concern is, who's going to trim the trees from keeping falling on these solar panels? And when they are cracked, or when the hailstorm comes through and just damages things, are they going to come out and repair them, or are they going to let them leak into the ground? And what's going to happen here? And so when you walk on the back part of my property, it drops off down into the bottom of the creek, and it's a big creek. And one of my other neighbors does the same thing, and that's where they're going to be supposed to be proposing to put the solar panels. And when that rain hits, it's going to drain right down in that creek, and that's my big concern for that. And I know it's about the money, but again, who's going to come back and clean all that up when, let's just say they sell it off and they're saying, okay, we're out. Now, who's going to clean up that mess? Or let's just say if they file bankruptcy, which, you know, there's nothing guaranteed here. Who's going to pick that up? Are they going to come back and clean all that up? They say they will, but we'll see. So my main thing here is it's a beautiful piece of property. I love coming out here. I mean, I have not met a lot of these folks here. I mean, it seems like some great people here. And I know the other neighbors that have signed up for this deal. We'll see what's going to happen here. We'll see. So I hope that my main thing here is that. 1 minute, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Most of all, I appreciate y'all listening. And that's one of the reasons why I decided not to do it, because to me it was not about the money. It was about preserving the property. And also, and I'm totally in agreement with the Amish folks. I have not met them, but I'm looking forward to meeting you afterwards, speaking to some of them, that I'm a firm believer in preserving. And it's not always about the money. Thank you.
Last name Nightingale. Shalene. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just really appreciate you coming out here to hear our concerns. I'm Shalene Nightingale. I'm also a new kid here for 5 years. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I want to be transparent. I used to be a representative of a solar company, and I won't name which one at this time. But as I was working for the solar company, I quickly learned of all the pitfalls and the dangers. Here I was doing it for environmental reasons and learning very quickly the harm that it does to humans and to the environment. I also want to be transparent that a former judge executive and I, he's not here, so I won't say his name, but we've already met with Congressman Brett Guthrie, who is on the national, I think he's the chair of the National Energy Committee. So we're going to continue that dialogue. I've given him a stack of Reports, I didn't have another stack to bring, I'm sorry, but I will try to get those reports, or maybe I can have Brett's staff contact you and give you the minutes even from the meetings that we had. Also, I know Mammoth Cave. I hope somebody is here representing Mammoth Cave, because I have reached out to them as well, and I know that they have concerns about the wildlife and their environment, and as they should. There are plenty of online, you can readily see this, studies that show the negative side effects. You will see positive, but having worked for a solar company, I always look at, well, who did the study? Who funded the study? And a lot of times you're going to find that it's the investors in the actual solar companies. So I like to reach out to other reports that are more independent, like the World Economic Forum, Harvard, Reuters. And so I do have a couple of reports I just quickly want to read here. The World Economic Forum, they came out with a study that's saying that they found that there was a health risk from the electromagnetic hypersensitivity associated with solar farms. And the condition is characterized by a range of symptoms they've discovered, which include headaches, fatigue, skin rashes, and sleep disturbances. There was another study done and conducted in Australia, because this is a debate that's not just happening here in Barron County, it's something that's happening globally as people are concerned about other forms of energy. And in Australia, they found very similar symptoms, including headaches. They found that people that actually lived by solar farms, they experienced headaches, dizziness, and nausea, and even an increase of cancer. As a cancer survivor, this is very much a concern for me, this issue. I also want to address not just the health, but also the environment. So the EPA, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, and the DOJ, the Department of Justice, announced more than $1 million in penalties against companies for polluting the water. And this was under the Biden administration, which I kept a keen eye on during those 4 years. And they found that it was the solar companies in various different states that were polluting the water. I think that's a study that perhaps you can all look into. I have a graph here. I can't remember, this one is by, I've got to refresh it, by Harvard or not. Let me see. And this is the risk that to water. I actually will get the email and send this to you, because I think this is really important. And this graph, it's the dark side of solar power. And they have a graph here that was a study done by the government, actually. Let me see if I can pull it up, about renewable energy. But while I'm looking at this graph, which I think is very telling, I looked up, well, a comment was made earlier. Here's the graph. The EIA said that we have 422 years at least of coal energy. So I don't want anybody to be fear-mongered into thinking that we don't have choices, because we do. And also, nuclear energy is very common in France, and they've had no issues. It's a very safe alternative there. So solar doesn't seem to be as safe. I've worked for a company, like I said. But here is the graph showing the water and the environmental impact, the increase. In the red, you can see it here, of the negativity of the solar panels. They do break. Here in the Midwest here not too long ago, there was a hailstorm that broke an entire farm, and they had issues, pollution. They had to send people to the hospital. We had a hailstorm here, and I remember thinking about this, that this could happen here. So, you're making some money here, perhaps, but what about the cost of emergency systems, the cost of the waste management. Who's picking up these panels? Because I know when I worked for a company, it was on the owner who had to do it. The company didn't do it. They didn't pick up that cost. So I hope that and this is the last comment I'll make because I know my time is up. I hope that the comments of those of us who actually live here or own houses here in this county bear more weight than those who do not live here and are representing special interest. And I thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you listening to us.
Thank you. Avery Matney.
Greetings, my name is Avery Matney. I live at 3673 Iron Mountain Road, Center, Kentucky. That is in Metcalfe County. I'm a little bit east of you all, but David Hawkins and Nadine and I own a farm that joins this property, and we own another farm in Park City. So that is my interest, and I think it's full disclosure also. I represent the people of Metcalfe County on the solar site committee over there. We have one producing solar farm now. Appreciate the labor guys, looking for jobs. I appreciate them. But what I'd like to talk about today is a decommissioning issue that's here, the decommissioning cost. It's both important for the county, and it's also for those of us who are landowners. A comparison of the decommissioning plan that was prepared by Stanek and submitted on May 19th, 2025 to the Siting Board, and the decommissioning plan filed by Wood Duck Solar with the Barron County Court Clerk contains major discrepancies and assertions that must be addressed. The Stanek plan states that the decommissioning activities will begin within 6 months of the project ceasing operation, and that Wood Duck will be the responsible party. The plan filed with Barron County says that the decommissioning plan will occur at the completion of the project's operating life, but has not established a time frame for that action to take place, and makes reference to tenant instead of Wood Duck. This implies that an entity besides Wood Duck they will end up being the responsible party. The Stanek plan indicates that the subsurface electrical cables and conduits are to be abandoned at a depth greater than 3 feet. Barron County's filings tells us that decommissioning will require the removal of the underground cables, which statement is true. There's an estimated 59,141 linear feet, over 11 miles, to be removed. The Stanek plan provides a decommissioning cost summary that estimates a net decommissioning cost of $4,941,645. This amount is determined by estimating decommissioning expenses of $6,957,861 and subtracting potential revenue from the salvage value of all the panel components and recoverable materials in the amount of $2,016,216. Such an estimate seems reasonable as it is consistent with Barron County's request that Wood Duck provide a $4.2 million cash deposit to Barron County to secure the decommissioning of the project. Wood Duck declined this request. Instead, in the plan that's recorded with the Barron County Court Clerk, the decommissioning plan, the cost estimate is determined by a formula of gross cost plus contingency minus salvage credit equals the decommissioning cost estimate. The next line reads, the decommissioning cost estimate shall be an amount equal to at least $500 per acre. Obviously, Wood Duck expects their formula to produce a very low estimate, which they hope to mitigate by offering $500 an acre. With the project footprint and capacity approximately 1,245 acres, the total cost at $500 per acre will suggest that to be adequate at $622,500. You don't have to be an engineer to know this is just numbers is insufficient. There are 204,525 solar modules, 204,525 solar modules, 2,351 tracking system trackers, 28,632 steel pilings, 35 inverter stations, 59,941 linear feet of electrical cables and conduit, 159,940 linear feet of perimeter fencing, 99,714 linear feet of access roads, 500 linear feet of overhead transmission line, one project substation. In section 4.5, titled Financial Assurance, the standing plan reads, as stated in the regulation, the amount of the proposed bond or security shall be determined by an independent licensed engineer who is experienced in the decommission of solar electric generating facilities. That is what Wood Duck would have the siting board think, but section 3.1 of the plan filed in Barron County says tenant shall provide a detailed decommissioning cost estimate prepared by a Kentucky licensed engineer. An accurate decommissioning cost estimate is critical to the Barron County taxpayers, and Wood Duck proposes to control the estimating process through its selection of the engineer and its prescribed formula. While it is extremely troubling that Kirkland's appraisal and Dr. Coombs' economic analysis both lack independence, it is simply unfathomable that Wood Duck might be allowed to control the process of establishing the amount of the decommissioning security. We ask at a minimum, the siting board require a cash deposit on the order of Barron County's request of $4.2 million or Stanic's estimate of $4.9 million. If it conditionally approves the project, a better decision would be to deny Wood Duck's request entirely. The final point I will highlight is Wood Duck stated in KRS 278.710 has preempted local control over the sale, transfer, or dissolution of the Wood Duck entity. In other words, Barron County is going to have no control over Wood Duck. That's a significant risk for Barron County. If Wood Duck Solar transfers ownership or dissolves, the county ability to review and approve such changes in the future is limited by state law. This could potentially leave the county and landowners dealing with a new unknown entity regarding decommissioning responsibilities and financial assurance. The confidentiality of the project's overall financing, the potential of the underestimated future cost, and the preemption of local control over the company represents tangible financial risk for both Barron County and its landowners. Diligent oversight and robust ironclad agreements are paramount to mitigate these risks. Thank you all.
David Hawkins.
And I don't see well without my specs, so. What we got here? My name's David Hawkins. My address is 190 Cane Run Cemetery Road, Munfordville. I too am an owner of the 113 acres that's been mentioned, with almost a mile of linear feet of property line adjacent to the project. I've worked almost 50 years as a CPA and bank executive with many connections to Barron County. My focus is squarely on the dollars and cents, the very real, very tangible financial risk this project poses to our homes, our local economy, and our job market. These are impacts that will directly affect your wallets and your livelihoods. Let's start with your single largest investment, your home. The prospect of a sprawling 2,300-acre industrial solar facility in our community casts a long shadow over property values. This isn't just speculation, it's borne out by data. GeneX Solar, the parent company of Wood Duck Solar, engaged Kirkland Appraisals, LLC, and in Kirkland's voluminous report dated May 25, 2023, Kirkland concluded, not surprisingly, that there was no impact on the value of properties nearby to commercial solar installations. This conclusion is invalid because Kirkland lacks independence and its opinion was bought and paid for by GeneX. The data used was stale and its methodologies were flawed. In my career, I've looked at hundreds of appraisals. I can say that with certainty. Current independent research by Nino Abashidze of the University of Wyoming, which was issued on May 29, 2025, reveals a far different picture. She used housing sales data from North Carolina, which is coincidentally the home state of GeneX and Kirkland. Her conclusion is that, and I quote, "Our results indicate that the arrival of a solar farm leads to an approximately 8.7% reduction for homes within 1 mile relative to similar homes farther away. We also find evidence that local housing market activity declines after a solar farm becomes operational. The number of homes sold in the nearby area falls by roughly 6%, suggesting reduced housing liquidity in the vicinity of the new solar facility," end quote. Homeowners near solar farms experience reduced property equity. Imagine losing a tenth of your home's value, not because of market trends, but because a massive industrial solar plant moved next door. This solar project impacts your equity, your ability to sell, and the long-term financial security of every property owner in the vicinity. Now let's talk about the entity behind this project, Wood Duck Solar. This is not your typical deeply rooted corporation with decades of local ties and substantial diversified assets. Wood Duck Solar is what's known as a special purpose vehicle or a shell corporation. It's essentially a legal entity created solely for this one project. What does this mean for us? It means the primary purpose of this structure is to limit liability. While GeneX Solar is the developer, the direct financial responsibility for this specific project resides primarily within Wood Duck Solar, LLC. This company likely holds minimal assets beyond the project itself. How can it complete a $130 million project or provide a multi-million-dollar decommissioning bond? Why is this a concern for us? In 25 to 30 years, when these panels reach the end of their life, hundreds of acres of industrial equipment will need to be removed and the land restored. If Wood Duck Solar is sold off, or if the entity holding it at that time lacks sufficient assets or simply dissolves, who bears the massive financial burden of this cleanup? It could fall directly on the county and thus on our taxpayers. If there are significant financial damages to our community, perhaps from environmental issues, unfulfilled promises, a failed decommissioning, or their one-sided lease agreements with landowners, pursuing recourse against a minimally capitalized shell corporation can be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. We need to question whether a company designed to limit its own financial exposure is truly a reliable long-term partner for our community's future. GeneX Solar is a company with a history of developing large solar farms, but it's important to understand their business model. They typically sell these projects to other entities. GeneX Solar states their commitment to communities and even to preserving farmland. Yet here in Barron County, we're seeing the direct conversion of 2,300 acres of prime agricultural land and significant local opposition regarding transparency and long-term impacts. The fact that Mammoth Cave National Park has formally raised concerns, the Barron County Fiscal Court has passed the 1,000-foot setback ordinance due to this very project, clearly indicates significant local opposition and controversy around the Wood Duck Solar project. Finally, let's address this conversion of 2,300 acres of productive land. Our local economy has deep roots in agriculture. When it is taken out of agriculture production for a solar farm, the economic ripple effect is profound and negative. This isn't just land, it's livelihoods. Current research from Columbia University, New York, states the USDA figures show that one agriculture-related job is lost for every 9 acres taken out of production. Approximately 250 agriculture-related jobs will be lost to the Wood Duck Solar project, contrasted with an estimated 3 permanent jobs created by the project. This is a terrible trade-off for Barron County. We can talk about the tax base, the loss of the multiplier effect, less demand for local ag suppliers. But I would say, in closing, this bears undeniable financial risk, and it results in the permanent loss of agricultural jobs and economic vitality. Let's stand up for our community, our land, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Tiffany Thompson.
I'm short, so I'll have to adjust this. My name is Tiffany Thompson. I live at 3303 Millstown Road. I have 200 acres adjacent to this on 2 separate properties. I have a vested interest in this proposed solar project in our community, as it has a direct negative effect on mine and others' property and livelihood. I understand that the PSC has heard from concerned residents on other solar projects here in Kentucky. However, we are more than just concerned, particularly those of us adjacent to this project. We've taken the time to research and educate ourselves, and I think you've heard that here today. This isn't just people that don't want to look at solar panels. We've done our research, and we have facts to back it up. We've educated ourselves about the dangers of this project will bring to our properties and to our community. From our research, we have seen that the PSC has approved the majority of these applications on other projects, but with conditions imposed to mitigate the damages these projects bring. However, this proposed project is unlike any other here in the state, as it is proposed on scattered sites. This scattered site model affects a vastly greater number of adjacent farmers and landowners than other projects, as well as the community impacts. I would implore the PSC to consider this in their decision making on this particular solar energy project and deny this company the access they want that will destroy our valuable farmland for generation after generation to come, if this land is ever able to be farmed again. I don't see how there are even enough regulations or stipulations that could properly prevent or mitigate the damages this will cause to our most valuable commodity here in Kentucky, our farmland and our farmers. If you are unable to fully deny access, I would implore you to impose all reasonable regulations to protect my property and my neighbors and our community. And the one thing that we will never have more of, the land where we grow our people's food. Fire is a major issue with this proposed project. In our county, we do not have sufficient water lines that would support solar panel fires in the proposed area. There are multiple factors that can and have caused fires on solar farms across the country. Overheating of the panels, which is a particular concern with this installation, as Genex proposes not to have battery storage on site. Lightning can and has also started fires on other sites. One notable occurrence of solar utility fire is the project in Texas that burned for days, causing a shelter-at-home order for the local residents. With the size and scattered acreage of this project, we would need water lines in this area to be upgraded significantly to expand the lines to mitigate damages to others' homes. We also need much more reasonable lot line variances that would prevent these panels from such a close proximity to people's homes and barns and livestock. Our own Kentucky laws generally require panels to be no closer than 1,000 feet away from property lines. Why should this application of panels be given any less of a variance than that given the danger? This area is well known for its volatile storms, which pose another drastic danger to property owners in a very wide area around this project. Tornadoes which frequent this area have been known to move dangerous debris miles from its original location. If my pastures are covered in broken glass that will probably injure and can likely kill my livestock with the glass shards if they are consumed, who pays for that damage? Will I be reimbursed? Will the state pay for it? Will Genex? Will Wood Duck? Because I see nothing in the documentation that compensates potentially affected farmers from livestock loss or usage loss of their property in the event of fire or damaged panels contaminating neighbors' properties. I see no schedule for inspection or parameters for repairs submitted in Genex's application. I have not seen that they have a reasonable 24-hour inspection and repair response plan for storm damage. There should be a fee schedule in place to ensure that this company responds in a timely manner to storm damage, damage from wildlife, repairs to greenway buffers. There should be an emergency response plan for extreme weather and fire. There must be checks and balances put in place by the PSC to protect county residents and ensure this company upholds excellent standards in safety to mitigate the dangers to our community. Our fire department in this area are volunteers, and there is extensive emergency response training that should be done. These are some of the more obvious dangers. However, there are several less obvious, unseen contaminants, particularly lead, but other heavy metals that can pollute our groundwater and spread to mine and others' properties, poisoning livestock and crops. Not to mention the area we are in, our groundwater flows to Mammoth Cave, a national treasure in this state that should be protected from a project that does not stand to bring even a mere fraction of the revenue to this state that Mammoth Cave does. The tourism that Mammoth Cave brings to our community is a primary backbone of revenue for Kentucky and our county. Allowing a project like this to jeopardize Mammoth Cave, not only from an environmental standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint, seems ill-advised and, frankly, in my opinion, stupid. Speaking of revenue, GNEX has thrown many numbers around about the jobs that they will create and the money they will bring to our county, but after fact-checking their proposed numbers, they don't add up. There may be jobs during construction that will be short-term employment, but from what we've seen on other projects, they are likely to bring in out-of-state contractors for construction, which does not bring jobs to our locals. At most, it seems this utility project may employ 3 to 5 locals to oversee the existing panels. The power for this project is sold on the open market, so it does not go into our community. It does not stand to reduce our rates. I fail to see any way that this project is enough of a benefit to our community or the energy grid to be worth the severe risk that it poses. So in conclusion, I once again implore you at the PSC who are able to protect our community to do so. I implore you to truly, actively listen to the people here today and our community who stand to lose their livelihood with this power themselves to stop. You all must be our voice and encourage you to impose every reasonable measure and expectation on this company that we can to protect the people of our county and our state.
Thank you. Next, Adam Thompson.
I'll be brief. I'd like to, I'll introduce myself. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm married to Tiffany. We live on 3303 Millstown Road, right across from the one of the proposed sites of the Wood Duck Cellar project. She said essentially everything that I had wrote down in my own independent. We did the same research. We helped each other out on it. But we have people here that weren't done speaking, so I'll just be brief and I'll rescind my time so that they can have more time to speak. I just wanted to mention quickly that every person that has come up here in favor of the project either does not live here or has a monetary interest in the project. Thank you.
This one I can read the name, but I can't read the yes or no. So I'm not sure if it's a yes or no. But James Davis, did James Davis want to speak? Okay. Next, Bob Snee.
Good afternoon, good evening, panel. I appreciate you taking the time to hear from all of us concerned citizens. My name is Robert Snee. I live at 665 Coon Creek Road, Glasgow. Full disclosure, I'm a recent transplant to this community. I moved here from Oregon 3.5 years ago. But done some research because seeing what's happened in Oregon through the years and the focus on green energy and seeing what's planned for Barron County got me interested and concerned, mostly concerned. Back in 2023, December 18 of 23, Wood Duck obtained the approval of the Barron County Planning Commission for the project. At that time, the minutes reflect that Wood Duck represented that there was basically going to be no glare anywhere except, quote, Oak Grove Church Road and 4 of the 147 residences for 20 minutes per day in the late fall and winter months. February of this year, I attended a public information session held in Cave City by Wood Duck. There's no information there about glare from the project. Something that they want to gloss over. It's a concern for both safety and aesthetics. What they represented is completely false, and apparently, since that approval was obtained from the Planning Commission, Wood Duck commissioned a subsequent glare study by Forage Solar, which indicates that the Cumberland Parkway, which is a major thoroughfare through the project, east and westbound is going to have at least 120 minutes of glare for 6 months out of the year. New Bowling Green Road, Millstown Road, Bon Air, Oak Grove Church Road, Dripping Springs, Flower Road, and more are all going to have glare issues. There are 28 houses that are going to be subjected to glare from anywhere from 20 minutes to as long as 6 hours, 4 hours a day through up to 6 months of the year. Apparently the panels that I understand in this project move with the sun. They're not static panels. They're destined to follow the sun as it's tracking. And it's going to cause both safety concern on those roads. We've got narrow roads that are windy. They're traveled by UPS trucks, mail carriers, propane delivery trucks, school buses, large farm equipment. That glare is going to constitute a significant safety hazard for anyone traveling those roads during the time when glare is going to be present from the project. It's going to increase the number of accidents. Hopefully none of them will be fatal, but accidents will increase as a result of the glare from this project. It's just, when Wood Duck made those presentations or made those comments to Barron County Planning Commission, they either did those statements, misrepresentations, intentionally or negligently. They didn't know, but they represented that there would not be a problem from glare, when in reality, their subsequent study that they commissioned themselves does show that glare is going to be a major issue of concern for the safety of the citizens of Barron County and those traveling through Barron County on the Cumberland Parkway. Thank you for your time and consideration, and please consider all the issues of concern for all the residents here. The economic concerns, the safety concerns for the environment. This is a project that does not balance out, particularly when none of the energy that is developed from this project is guaranteed to be used here in Kentucky. It's going to be put on the open market and shipped elsewhere. It's going to be owned by a company. Genex's track record is clear. They sell all of their projects, many of them to foreign entities. We're likely going to end up with a project that owns by a company in France using materials and panels that are built by Chinese companies, and we'll have no control over how that gets cleaned up here unless you put conditions on the approval if the project is approved. We recently, as a nation, banned foreign workers from the agricultural jobs out of biosafety concerns. Yet we're potentially putting a hazardous project in control of foreign entities. This isn't something that's in Barron's interest or Kentucky's interest. Thank you.
Omar Pavon. That may be a mispronunciation. It looks like Omarpavon. Oh, he had to leave. Okay. All right. And then there's one more. I can't tell if it's a yes or no. David Pettigo.
I'm David Petio. I live at 1043 Patterson Road. I'm a third-generation farmer in the area. And what I'd like to address is the fact of converting farmland to this type of use. It's permanently changed. So all the people that would be living on this land, it's gone. And there's a lot better other places that you could use this. We worked in western Kentucky on a 12,000-acre coal mine reclaim. It was just wasteland, you know. Nobody lives there and nobody's concerned. So my thoughts is if some stuff like this could be moved there, then it don't have to affect our communities. And, you know, our children in the future and people to move to the community who wants to move and look at such an installation. I don't see it being a future we should be going down. So I think we should keep agricultural land, agricultural use. And far as solar, you know, I'm all for green energy. It just needs to be somewhere that it's not a competition to our land. Because you have people that lease land for agricultural uses. Now there's a competition for that land for other uses other than ag. And I receive notices from other states, Minnesota, Florida, Oklahoma, that wants to lease or buy my property. Now, there's some kind of angle going on. Why would they want to? They don't want to move here, but it's all related to the solar industry. So I feel like this is just a foot in the door, that if this gets established, now it's going to expand, and there's no backing up. So I think this is a good time right now that if you could reconsider to keep ag land, you know, under ag use, and keep the outside influences, because when property goes up for sale that's adjacent to these existing solar farms, you're going to have people from out of state that's going to want to buy that land as speculators just for this one purpose. It's the only angle that I see that this would play on. So I asked you would reconsider keeping these things out of communities and put them somewhere where there's land that has limited use. You know, the strip mines in eastern Kentucky, the mountaintop mining, where they take a mountaintop off and it's sitting there. You know, it's a perfect place. You know, the economic benefit there, you know, they could use it too. And it's not disruptive to our communities. So I asked you would consider that, please. Thank you.
I don't see any more that seem to indicate yes, unless I've misread. But I'll give anyone an opportunity who didn't indicate yes that they wanted to speak to come on up and speak. If someone wanted to read that other letter, I'm okay with that. But I just want to make sure that anyone who is here and has changed their mind and would like to speak gets that chance. We have a little one who wants to speak, I think.
If the letter is here, I will read it. I don't think she wants it read. It's very hard to hear. Can she read it in my name, or do I have to read it?
Yeah, I think that it'd be better for one other person.
I can't read them.
I can't.
I'll tell you why.
Oh no.
Well, you can read it. But you have to read it. Oh, because I wrote all over on it.
That's okay. Which one did you not read? Okay.
All right, tell us your name and address, please.
My name is Gwen Idala. Before I read the letter, I would like to say that my family has 3 properties in Barron County that are directly impacted by the solar project that is planned, and I do strongly oppose the project, especially based on the loss of property value that I'm expecting to have. But I would like to give my time to the Amish community. I've never read this, so I may stumble. This is the first time I'm seeing it. To whom it may concern, we, the undersigned, are members of the Old Order Amish congregation, the so-called Park City settlement. We hear that some people in the area lease their farms to some solar company. This company or people, we cannot find out who or what is really behind this. But they want to put hundreds upon hundreds of solar panels on these farms. Is it? That's the one she handed me. Okay. I will read this other letter. Okay. To whom it may concern. We, and it lists the family members' names, live in northwestern Barron County, Kentucky. We are part of the Old Order Amish community of Park City. We hear that some of the neighbors have leased their farms to a company called Wood Duck Solar. They plan to put that, that's the same thing, yeah. Every year we have a deer season in November. We lived here for 8 years, and every year I have been able to harvest deer right here at home, which brings good, healthy meat. That's the other letter. Yeah, okay.
They
I'm
just
going to go
started out
back.
the same. Okay.
Yeah, they're very similar. This one has more stuff, though. The chemical contaminated rays that they give off in the air and chemical contaminated water runoff from underneath them. Let's think about what all of our sinkholes and caves in this area and our underground water source. Let's think about this. We do not throw an empty chemical container into a sinkhole so we don't contaminate our underground water with chemicals. We can easily dispose of our empty chemical container in the right manner, but how are we going to control the poisonous water seepage off of the solar panels? Guys, let's take heed. We need to look into this, not just at it. Do we want our tender, innocent little children in an atmosphere like that? Not just the children, also ourselves and the animals, birds, wild and domestic. We hear that they want to bring sheep in on these farms to eat the grass down, then move them somewhere else. Why not leave them there year after year? Maybe they cannot reproduce if they leave them there amongst those panels, and maybe they would get sick or die. What about the people that join land with these solar farms? How can they stay healthy? Not just them, all of us. Let's think our atmosphere is bad enough without letting something as hazardous as that come into the area. Please someone step in and help us to keep this area as natural and clean as we can. We want to keep this area in shape that our descendants can buy land, live on it, and farm it. The question is, those solar panels are on a farm for 10 to 20 years. Even if they get disposed of, will that land ever grow a crop again? What if people that join a field full of solar panels would want to sell their farm? Whose right mind would want to buy that farm? Could they even sell it? Let's have a heart for them. A lot of questions could still be asked. What about disposal? Or will there be a disposal? Or will we see the day that we see fields full of shattered plastic and glass with unnameable chemicals mixed in and growing up with everything from trees to thistles? Or maybe the land will lay there bare because of the chemicals from the broken up solar panels. Out of sincere love for nature and everything almighty that God created, we just don't want those fields full of solar panels in this area. In this area, we do not have to lease our land to a solar panel planter, so we don't lose our inherited farms. With real farmers in this area looking for land to lease with the price per acre they offer, grain farmers are feeding the world, not solar panel planters. And on top of that, we hear that this is not enough farmland in the area. Most of us in this area are country people, and we like to see everything as natural as we can. We are very concerned about this. We feel that the EPA has got a lot of work to do before the solar panels should be allowed in the area. A lot of us rely on springs and wells for our drinking water. Please keep it as clean as we can. Again, let's think about the sinkholes and the caves. And then this letter is signed by 55 members of the Amish community.
So anyone who brought a written statement can submit that. Our staff can take it, or you can mail it, or you can email it. I don't know the rules about whether those names can be submitted, but if so, you can hand that to one of our staff, and we'll have that. And I want to open the opportunity to anyone else who said no but has changed their mind and would like to speak. All right. I don't see anyone else making their way up. We want to thank you for having us. We learned our lesson at a previous hearing, and I had to learn it the hard way. I let someone else speak twice, and then the other side did, and then back and forth until it had been another hour and people were mad. People have not gotten mad. You guys have been very respectful of one another. I don't want to start a back and forth now. Again, we really do appreciate you having us into your community and listening to one another and providing us with your thoughts tonight. If anyone else wants to later make a comment, remember you can submit written comments to the siting board by either mailing them to us at 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40601, emailing them to psc.comment@ky.gov, or coming in person or speaking virtually at the hearing. Our case number is 2024-00337. Make sure you put that case number on any correspondence that you send so we make sure it gets into the record in the proper case. The hearing in this matter will be October 2nd, 2025. And if there's nothing further, this meeting's adjourned.